What's up, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, ready to talk some draft. That's right. The Shrine Game is about to kick off tonight, and then this weekend we've got the Senior Bowl. We are about to be knee-deep in the draft industrial complex, and who better to talk with than our own Cheesehead TV senior NFL draft correspondent. I think he's the only NFL draft correspondent we have, Joseph Randolph. Joseph, how are you today, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Just trying to stay warm and look at these draft guys doing what they're doing out there on the field, looking at the warm ups, looking at the weigh-ins, just kind of soaking it all in, and getting ready
Absolutely.
for this great draft season we got coming up.
I love it. I love it. Now, obviously, you've already posted about the Shrine Game that's going to be taking place. I think it kicks off 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night, while we're the day we're recording this, and then we have the Senior Bowl coming up this weekend. Obviously, the whole week down in Mobile is noteworthy, etc. But let's start with the Packers themselves and look at the roster and what you perceive, what you think the draft needs are. I know it's tough at this point because A, we don't know what the hell is going on with Aaron Rodgers. B, we don't know what's going on with Devontae Adams. And C, everything that flows off of that as far as their free agency, question marks. They have a ton of guys up, unrestricted, what have you. But if you're the GM and you're looking at, this draft class, what are you looking at coupling the Packers roster with, guys that will be available? Where do you see the draft needs for the Green Bay Packers heading into 2022?
Well, Aaron, it's really all over. If I'm Brian, I'm trying to load up the cupboard. With the tight cap situation, and we know the money's coming. It's
Right.
just a couple years away. So I'm trying to load up on as much talent as I can possible. If Brian Gutekunst is a real Ted Thompson disciple, he believes in competition. I think there was a couple of drafts where we looked at Ted like, Ted, what are you doing? And he's like, competition.
Right.
Competition one way or another is going to breed a better starter, or the guy who just got picked up, he's going to beat him out and make the team better regardless. So if I'm Brian, I'm open to just about anything and everything until I know for sure, one, if Aaron's coming back, if Devontae's coming back, and even then, Aaron's still almost 40. So at some point, we have to realize that the offense is going to have to find a new identity sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no doubt about it. When you look at the positions, like let's look at, I mean, the premium positions that the Packers have traditionally looked at early in the draft, undoubtedly corner, edge rusher, offensive line. Are there any of those that jump out at you for this draft class anyway that you think they might zero in on, other than, outside of, like, everyone's always going to be clamoring for position groups, skills position groups, especially wide receiver? We know the Packers tend to shy away from that early in the draft. Where do you think they look? They're sitting there at 28. They've got selections in each of the first three rounds. Maybe if there is a trade of Aaron Rodgers, they'll load up their premium pick wise. But sitting at 28, late in the round, each round, where do you think they look early in the draft?
Early in the draft, it really just, I think Brian's probably going to say something like, we're going to try to move around the board like he always says, or
Right.
or maybe just pick who they think is best for the team at the time, because really I think this is a best player available draft. It doesn't jump off the page to you. There's plenty of value there. I wouldn't necessarily say it in the first round or two. So I'm kind of keeping an open mind as far as the first 2 to 3 rounds. If anything, I'd be looking for a swing tackle again. I know we just loaded up last year, but both Price and Elton went down, and then we did pretty good. We did pretty good given what we had to work with, but that line rotation was just in flux. I think we only had like 2 games where I think the actual starters were together.
Right. Right.
So I think LaFleur is still trying to find his rotation there. And most notably, when somebody goes down, it's like, okay, well, where's Billy going to line up? Where's Elton going to line up?
Right.
What are we doing there?
Well, and you
Um,
look at the contracts. I mean, you got to think there's a chance Billy Turner's let go. Uh, like Dennis Kelly was a 1-year contract, so there's every possibility that he's not back. So I think it makes sense to look at tackle. Is there anybody you're going to have your eye on in the Shrine Game? I know you wrote extensively about a lot of these players, a lot of these prospects. let's look at the wide receiver group because, like I said, that's what everybody wants to talk about, and I do think
Everybody wants to
there's
ride.
there's a good chance that this wide receiving core will look quite different. Who from the Shrine game do you have your eye on as far as maybe not like they're going to be superstars, but a guy who could come in and help at least somewhat early for the Packers?
Honestly, I like the Shrine game guys, but I'm actually kind of going on a buyer beware on our Shrine game wideouts. They don't really jump out off the page to me. The only person I think that has value is Kyle Phillips. He is like I think I put a Hunter Renfro like kind of player. He's not necessarily Cooper Kupp where he's gonna explode on you, at least not in the pros. But if you're looking for like, hey, I need a first down right here, right there. That's definitely the guy I want to zero in on, or just being like that catch machine that you that every quarterback or at least every offensive coordinator wants, to where you can just march down the field efficiently versus like kind of going for broke like we used to do in the McCarthy days.
Right. Lord knows the Packers could have used a guy like that a couple Saturdays ago against the 49ers when they desperately needed a first down and couldn't get one. Um, let's look at the Senior Bowl. Looking at practice, obviously there's tons of clips out there. People devour this stuff, but we know the Packers, of all the kind of featured all-star games, right, that happened during draft season, the Senior Bowl is one that the Packers seem to really pay attention to. They obviously send pretty much their entire personnel group down there to Mobile for this week. Brian's down there himself. Is there a position group or is there a player that you think the Packers could have their eye on? Because, like I said, they traditionally love the Senior Bowl, and more often than not, they come away, not every year, but most years, with at least one player who attended down in Mobile.
I think if anything, they're going to be looking at the quarterbacks. Um, Again, we
It's
don't
a
know where Aaron's going to
controversial
be.
take there, buddy. That's a controversial take. You
Yeah,
set this comment section on fire.
we don't know we don't know where our quarterback situation is going to be.
Right.
Jordan Love, he did not inspire confidence during the Chiefs game, and I don't want us to reach for a QB. And this QB class is not the one you want to reach for. After Kenny Pickett, uh, I probably wouldn't be much interested, at least in the first 2 days.
Right.
So I think, if anything, especially given that the Lions coaching staff is going to be coaching the Senior Bowl,
Right.
who also might be, possibly considering a quarterback. Like, all right, who do we like, but everybody doesn't like too much, if that makes sense?
Right.
Like, you don't want, like after Kenny Pickett, there'll be a ton of other people will be clamoring for Malik Willis. People will be clamoring for even somebody like Bailey Zapp. But okay, who does everybody like, but they don't like enough to where it's like, okay, like third round, I'm going to grab him in the comp section,
Right.
like EJ Perry from Brown, who is a coach's kid, and he's mobile, and not in the Mike Vick,
Right.
Kyler
Not
Murray
run
sense, but
around, make it happen kind of way. Right. But just a guy who can get out of the pocket. Makes
yeah,
sense.
he can get out of the pocket and make a few plays. Um, Arm strength is not necessarily a question. I don't think he's got the absolute cannon, but he can at least launch it 60 yards, which is fine. In a Matt LaFleur offense, you don't need to launch it 60 yards anyway.
That's
I
true.
think they're gonna look at the quarterback position just to see, like, if somebody starts to fall, like, who might be there. Because in the instance that maybe Aaron Rodgers, is gone, he did purchase a home in Nashville, I heard, either this weekend or whatnot.
Yes, he did. That is true.
Somebody has to back up Jordan Love. So who do we like, but everybody else doesn't like enough to where they're going to spend like a fourth rounder
Like a
or later
premium pick
on.
on him. Right. Right. Well,
So
it's going to be fascinating to watch play out and see, how these guys are rotated in during the game itself. I know most of the evaluation happens during the week, during practice. Um, what about wide receivers for the Senior Bowl? Is there anybody there that jumps out at you, or is that cupboard bare in your eyes?
For the Senior Bowl, we've got some good passers, pass catchers rather. Tolbert from South Alabama. I want to see how he does against a better cornerback group. In these lesser the mid majors, we like to call them the group of five teams. You have guys that always jump off the page like, oh, they do all this stuff. Even like I think I put Pierre Strong, who averaged 7.1 yards a carry at the running back position. But then you get to NFL level talent, and it's like, okay, that's
Right.
seven. That turns into like
that 7 drops into 3 or something.
right. And then it's like, okay. So I want to see how he does. I want to see how Pierce does from Cincinnati, who I think could be like a traditional X guy, where he can kind of be all over the field as far as being that guy who's tall enough but not super tall. He has an advantage over the cornerback, but he also has a little bit of speed to him as well, to where he can just beat with raw speed. And with better quarterback play, because Ritter from Cincinnati, he's got some accuracy issues. I'd like to see what he does when he's given a better ball. He probably jumps out the most to me. Beyond that, you're looking at guys maybe towards the back end of the draft. I like, even though he's a little too light for me, I like Austin out of Memphis for as a kick returner.
I was going to ask about were there any returners or specialists that you liked, because God knows this whole offseason is going to be focused on special teams. And if they can find a dedicated returner, you got to think they pull the trigger.
Right. I do like Austin, but he's 160 pounds. I don't know. I don't know how. At a
See, but
certain point,
that's the thing. You got to think that's well under the Packers' regular threshold, right? Athletically. However, if there's ever a year where you make the exception to try to bolster your teams, this has got to be it, right?
this has got to be it. And that's also where I'm so kind of all over the place with the wide receiver group, because there's not a lot of not even 6'4" wide
Right.
receivers in this class. London from USC, but he's probably going to go top 20, even with a broken ankle, because he got I think he got 1,200 yards in 8 games. And he broke his ankle, and I mean at that point is like, I've seen everything I need to see, but he's probably going to go top 20, and I think he's 6'4" and a little bit of change. I know he's listed at 6'5", but I want to say he's a hair under 6'5". Anybody else, you're really looking at like the tight end position, which they might look to go that route, because we don't talk about him. Is Big Dog coming back this year?
That's the question, right? Especially if Aaron Rodgers is gone, you got to think Big Dog's out the door. And with Tunyon's contract situation, who knows if he's back? You got DeGuara, who you spent a 3rd-round pick on, and you're trying to develop. But I would suspect, given, depending on the makeup of that room, I think tight ends, there's a good chance they look at tight end.
Right. Weidermeyer, although he's not in the Senior Bowl, he's a junior. But between him and Trey McBride, who is in the Senior Bowl, those are pretty much your top 2 guys. McBride is more of the traditional, I like to call him like a super Y, where he has some blocking. He physically has what you need to block. Technique needs to be improved, which typically every tight end coming in needs to do that. But other than that, he has what you need from a size perspective. He can move for a guy. He's almost 270 pounds, but he's got what you need to move around and make catches. I mean, most linebackers are not going to even be above 6'4", and he's got an extra 2 inches and a wingspan beyond that. He'll be perfectly fine suited for either in the middle of the field or definitely in the red zone. Derek Deese out of San Jose State. He's very fast for a tight end. A little bit undersized, obviously. I think he's about 6'3", but he gives a little bit more than what you might get from DeGuara, DeGuara, I think, is more of like, I know he's listed as a tight end. I really look at him as like a fullback.
He's a move guy, right? I mean, he's kind of a tweener, which was the knock on him coming out. Still kind of is the knock on him, but I agree with you. He's not a traditional, like, you're going to be able to line him up in line and then split him out if you need to, tight end, right? That's not his gig.
Right. Derek Deese is a little bit lengthier than him. Will probably have a little bit of his own little struggle similar to DeGuara, but the height is there. And then where DeGuara has an IQ, Deese has in physicality and athleticism. And those are the things that you can't necessarily teach. Either Either you're a
got him or
freak
you don't.
athlete or you're not. Yeah, you got it or you don't.
Right.
So
that makes a ton of sense.
So Ryan, and depending on if he's willing to break that, like I need like a skyscraper of a wide receiver
right.
requirement, he may look to go tight end.
That's a possibility, definitely. I would think so, especially like I said, given the contract situation in that room. Joseph, we've barely touched on the defensive side of the ball. We'll have to do that next time. I'm going to have you on a whole lot this offseason. Like I said, the draft stretches out in front of us, so there'll be plenty to talk about. I can't thank you enough for taking the time, buddy. Thanks so much for joining me here on She Said TV.
All right, thanks so much. Look forward to the next time.